Welcome to our deep dive into the book of Daniel. Um, Looks like this one's going to be a long one.
Yeah, it's a big book. Lots to unpack there, full of history, visions, prophecies. People have been trying to figure it out for centuries.
So where do we even start, I guess, with the setting? 6th century BC. We're talking about the Babylonian Empire, right?
Yeah,
A pretty powerful force on the scene.
exactly. And they've just conquered Jerusalem, so, major power move.
Yeah. And King Nebuchadnezzar, he's not just conquering land, right? He's deporting people, too.
Oh, absolutely. He's trying to control minds as much as territory. Takes the elite of Jerusalem, young Daniel included, ships them off to Babylon, tries to basically force them to become Babylonian.
Like some kind of ancient brainwashing program.
Pretty much. Imagine, being ripped from your home, everything
Yeah.
familiar, forced to learn a new language, new customs.
And not just the language, even their names.
Yeah.
Right? Like Daniel becomes Belteshazzar.
Right, trying to erase their Jewish identity, like become one of us or else.
That's a good point. And then there's the food, too.
Oh yeah, the food. Big deal in any culture.
Huge, especially for someone who follows Jewish dietary laws. Like, can you stay true to your faith when everything around you is telling you to do something else?
It's a test, for sure. And Daniel, he finds a way. He figures out how to honor his beliefs and still thrive in this totally foreign environment.
And not just survive, right? He excels. The text even says that Daniel and his friends end up with this exceptional wisdom greater than all the Babylonian scholars.
Yeah, that's wild, right? So they're basically superstars in Babylon. But then things get pretty crazy with Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
Oh man, dreams. I've had some weird ones. Ever wake up in a cold sweat wondering what it all meant?
Haha, yeah, me too. But this dream is a whole other level. It shakes Nebuchadnezzar so bad he demands his wise men tell him the dream and what it means.
Wow. So not just interpret it, they have to remember it for him too. Good luck with that.
Yeah, talk about impossible. But then Daniel steps up.
Our hero?
He prays for guidance and bam, gets a revelation, sees the dream, understands what it means.
Okay, so spill the beans. What was this dream that had Nebuchadnezzar so freaked out?
It was a giant statue made of all these different metals, gold, silver, bronze, iron, and the feet, they're iron mixed with clay.
Huh. Interesting. Sounds symbolic.
Oh, it is. Each metal represents a kingdom. Babylon's the head, the gold, the first one.
Ah, so it's a prophecy about the rise and fall of empires.
Bingo. Pretty heavy stuff, right? Especially that last part, the feet. Iron and clay, that's not a strong foundation. Destined to crumble.
Yeah. So it's saying even most powerful empires, they don't last forever. What does that say about all the powerful institutions we see today?
It makes you think, right? Everything's temporary. But it also suggests something else. There's a power at play that's even bigger than empires. A divine hand, maybe, shaping history.
That's a pretty powerful thought. But Nebuchadnezzar, he doesn't seem content with just dreams. He decides to build this giant golden statue.
Oh yeah, the statue. Not a subtle guy, Nebuchadnezzar. Commands everyone to bow down and worship it.
Talk about a power move, making sure everyone knows who's boss.
Right. Demands total loyalty, conformity. But then, Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they refuse.
Brave guys. Must taking guts to stand up to the king like that.
For sure. It's like they're saying, our faith is more important than your power. What happens next, though, is intense.
Let me guess. They get punished.
Oh, big time. Nebuchadnezzar throws them into a fiery furnace. And not just any fire, this thing is heated 7 times hotter than usual.
Oh man, you can practically feel the heat just thinking about it.
Right. Talk about a show of force. But then the craziest thing happens. They're thrown in, bound, everything, and they walk out
Wait, they walk out.
of a superheated furnace.
Completely unharmed, not a burn on them, not even their clothes are singed, not a whiff of smoke.
That's insane. Talk about a miracle.
Total miracle.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar is floored. He actually acknowledges their God as the one true God, even makes a decree that anyone who talks bad about their God will be punished.
Wow, from furnace to royal decree. That's quite a turnaround. But if you thought the drama was over, guess again. Nebuchadnezzar has another prophetic dream. Seems like dreams are his way of getting messages, huh?
Direct line to the divine. So what's this dream about?
This time it's a mighty tree. Gets chopped down, left to grow wild. But like the statue, it's a personal message. The tree is Nebuchadnezzar himself, and it's predicting he's going to go mad for 7 years. A consequence of his pride.
Wait, seriously, he actually lost his mind.
Yep. History backs it up. There are inscriptions confirming it. It's like the text is saying, this isn't just a story. This stuff really happened.
Wow, that's incredible. So we've got exile, Prophecies, a fiery furnace, a king going mad. What else does the book of Daniel have in store for us?
Well, next up is Belshazzar's feast. And let me tell you, this is where things get really interesting. Picture a lavish party. Belshazzar's the host, Nebuchadnezzar's successor, and they're drinking from the sacred vessels looted from the Jerusalem temple.
That can't be good. Not exactly a way to make friends with the divine, right?
Definitely not. And suddenly, right in the middle of the party, a hand appears and writes on the wall. Yeah, the party takes a turn for the weird. And guess what? Nobody can figure out what it says.
Deja vu. Time for Daniel to save the day again.
You got it. He gets called in, deciphers the message, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. It's basically a divine countdown, and it's predicting the fall of Babylon.
Whoa. So he's predicting the end of an empire at a party. Bold move.
Right. It's a classic case of pride before the fall, messing with sacred things. There are consequences. And wouldn't you know it, that very night, Babylon falls to the Medes and Persians.
Talk about a party pooper. So Babylon's gone. What about Daniel? What happens to him?
Well, he actually continues to serve in the new Median government under King Darius, but some people aren't too happy about that. Some officials get jealous, start scheming.
Jealousy and power, not a good combination.
Never. So they trick Darius into making this decree. Nobody can pray to any god or human except the king for 30 days. Talk about a trap.
Yeah, that's putting Daniel in a tough spot. So what does he do?
What do you think? Does Daniel cave under pressure?
Knowing Daniel, I'm guessing he sticks to his principle.
Exactly. He keeps praying openly to his God like he always has. 3 times a day, no hiding it.
Talk about brave, but also very risky.
Oh, it's a huge risk. And of course his enemies jump on it. He's arrested, thrown into a den of lions.
Seriously. First a furnace, now lions. This guy can't catch a break.
It's like a test of faith, one after another. But guess what happens?
Let me guess, another miracle.
God sends an angel to shut the lions' mouths. Daniel comes out without a scratch.
Wow. That's incredible. Talk about faith overcoming obstacles.
Absolutely. Daniel's story is seriously something else. But keep in mind, we've only covered the first half of the book.
Wait, there's more?
Oh yeah, a lot more. Things are about to get even wilder. We're talking even more intense, symbolic visions.
Intense and symbolic. All right, I'm intrigued. Let's keep diving into Daniel's world.
Buckle up. All right, so we've seen Daniel interpret dreams, survive a fiery furnace, and even come out of a den of lions totally fine.
Yeah, some pretty wild stories there. But you mentioned that Daniel's visions get even crazier in the second half of the book.
Oh yeah, buckle up. Get ready for some strange creatures, cryptic symbols, cosmic battles, the whole shebang.
Okay, I'm listening.
So in chapter 7, Daniel sees these 4 beasts coming out of the sea, and they're like nothing you've ever seen before. We're talking a lion with eagle's wings, a bear with ribs in its mouth, a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads.
Whoa, okay, that's a lot to unpack.
And then there's a 4th beast. That one's so terrifying, it's indescribable.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out. What do these beasts even represent?
They symbolize different kingdoms, empires, starting with Babylon as the lion. Then the others, they're thought to represent the empires that came after. Media-Persia, Greece, and then this final terrifying empire that a lot of people think is Rome.
So it's another prophecy about empires rising and falling, but this time with way more vivid, maybe even disturbing imagery.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting. Daniel sees this little horn pop up on that 4th beast, and this horn has eyes and a mouth that speaks arrogant things.
Oh, that can't be good.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. It's a symbol of a future ruler who will challenge God and persecute his people. And this little horn has caused a lot of debate and interpretation throughout history.
So another layer of mystery added to the mix. Got it. So what happens next?
Well, the scene shifts, and Daniel sees this figure called the Ancient of Days, sitting on a fiery throne. This figure represents God, and he's there to judge.
Okay, so we've gone from scary beast to some kind of cosmic courtroom. What's the verdict?
Well, the beasts get defeated, their power taken away, and then this figure, like a son of man, approaches the Ancient of Days and is given dominion, glory, and a kingdom that will last forever.
So even with all the chaos and scary imagery, there's a message of hope and ultimate victory in there.
Exactly. No matter how powerful evil seems, God is ultimately in control.
That's good to hear. But are these visions getting any easier to understand?
Not really. In chapter 8, Daniel has another vision. This time, it's about a ram and a goat.
Okay, a ram and a goat. Where are we going with this?
Hang with me. The ram, it has 2 horns, and it represents the kings of Media and Persia.
Okay, so we're back to talking about empires.
Right. And the goat, it has a single prominent horn, and that represents the king of Greece. A lot of people think that's Alexander the Great.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Starting to make sense.
So the goat attacks the ram and breaks its horns, which symbolizes Alexander conquering the Persian Empire. Pretty straightforward,
So
right?
far, so good.
But then the goat's horn breaks, and 4 smaller horns grow in its place. This shows how Alexander's empire got divided up after he died.
Okay, so this vision is basically recapping history.
In a way, but then it takes another turn. Out of one of the smaller horns, another little horn pops up and it grows super powerful. This horn represents another future ruler who will persecute God's people and mess with the temple.
So it's another prophecy about a future tyrant, kind of like that little horn on the 4th beast from before.
Exactly. And this time, the vision even gives us a time frame. 2300 evenings and mornings.
2,300 evenings and mornings. What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery. People have interpreted it in different ways throughout history, but the main takeaway is that this future ruler's reign of terror, it won't last forever. It will come to an end.
So even though these visions are full of strange stuff, there's always a message of hope woven through them.
That's what makes the book of Daniel so fascinating. It's a story about exile and oppression, but it's also about faith, resilience, and how good ultimately wins.
It's like Daniel saying, hey, don't worry, God's got this.
Exactly. But there's more to come. Daniel's visions get even more specific and detailed, and they've kept people guessing for centuries.
Okay, you've got my attention. What other mysteries does Daniel uncover?
Well, in chapter 9, we see Daniel really troubled by the state of Jerusalem. It's still in ruins after the Babylonian exile. So he's studying Jeremiah's prophecies, and he realizes that the 70 years of exile are almost over.
So Daniel's like a detective, piecing together clues from the prophecies.
That's a great way to put it. And it leads him to pray for God's mercy and for Jerusalem to be restored.
Okay, I'm sensing another angel visit coming on.
Haha, you know it. While Daniel's praying, the angel Gabriel appears to him with a crazy revelation.
All right, I'm hooked.
What does Gabriel say?
He gives a prophecy about 70 weeks that are destined for Daniel's people and for the holy city.
70 weeks. Are we talking about a regular calendar here?
Most people think these weeks are periods of 7 years. So the prophecy actually covers 490 years.
Whoa, that's a long-term prophecy. So what goes down during these 70 weeks?
It's a complex prophecy with lots of layers, but here's the gist. It predicts a time of rebuilding and restoration for Jerusalem, but also a time of trouble and persecution. And it even points to the coming of an anointed one who will be cut off.
An anointed one who will be cut off. That sounds pretty significant.
It definitely is. This prophecy has sparked a lot of discussion and interpretation, with many seeing it as foreshadowing the Messiah and his suffering.
Okay, things are getting pretty serious here. Is there any point in these visions where things get a little easier to understand? Well, let's just say they don't get any simpler. But they do give us a glimpse into this epic battle between good and evil that's happening behind the scenes of human history.
You mean like with angels and demons and stuff?
Exactly. Daniel's visions reveal that there's way more going on than we can see. There are these spiritual forces at work that are influencing empires and the fate of nations.
That's kind of scary, but also exciting. It's like a scene from a fantasy movie.
And just like in those movies, there are heroes and villains in this cosmic drama. In chapter 10, Daniel is fasting and praying for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. This guy is serious about getting answers.
He's not messing around, and his persistence pays off. This glorious being appears to him, shining with light and power. This is probably an angel, and he's come to explain why Daniel's prayers were delayed.
Okay, so even divine responses can be put on hold. Sometimes things happen behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Exactly. The angel tells Daniel that he was in a spiritual battle with the Prince of Persia, which is like a demonic entity fighting against God's plans. And get this, even Michael the Archangel had to come help him.
Whoa, so there's like an all-out war happening in the spiritual realm.
That's right. And this cosmic battle, it has real-world consequences. It's impacting kingdoms and the destiny of nations.
This is blowing my mind. I never knew the book of Daniel was so epic.
It's truly one of the most fascinating and challenging books in the Bible. And we're about to dive into some of its most mind-boggling prophecies yet. Get ready for a wild ride through future history.
Right, bring it on.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see what Daniel reveals next. All right, so last time, we were talking about these cosmic battles and prophecies about the fate of nations. Pretty intense stuff.
Oh, yeah. It gets even more intense in chapter 11. We get into some super specific prophecies about conflicts between the kings of the north and the south.
Kings of the north and south. Okay,
No.
I'm lost. Who are we talking about here?
It's basically a sneak peek into the power struggles that happened between the guys who took over after Alexander the Great died. The king of the north usually refers to the Seleucid dynasty. They ruled over Syria and that whole area after Alexander's empire split up.
Got it. So who's the king of the south then?
That would be the Ptolemaic dynasty, the rulers of Egypt. And what follows is like a whole series of alliances, betrayals, battles, power grabs, you name it, all between these two kingdoms.
So it's like Game of Thrones, but with real empires instead of made-up families.
Yeah, pretty much. Daniel's prophecy lays out specific events like marriages, military campaigns, even the rise of this despicable person who takes power through deception.
A despicable person? Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Who is this guy?
Well, a lot of scholars think it's talking about Antiochus V Epiphanes. He was a Seleucid king, and he was known for being really, really bad news for the Jewish people. He tried to wipe out their religion entirely.
Yeah, despicable seems like an understatement.
Oh, for sure. Antiochus is a key player in this whole prophecy. He's described as being super arrogant, blasphemous, basically determined to destroy the worship of the true God.
What did he actually do that was so bad?
Well, for starters, he outlawed all Jewish practices. Then he went and desecrated the temple in Jerusalem. He even sacrificed a pig on the altar. And to top it all off, he set up a statue of Zeus in the Holy of Holies.
Wow, that's just awful. How did the Jewish people handle all of that?
It was a time of intense persecution and suffering, for sure. But it also sparked a rebellion. A group of devout Jews called the Maccabees rose up against Antiochus and fought for their religious freedom.
So this is where the story of Hanukkah comes from, right?
Exactly. The Maccabees ended up winning. They recaptured Jerusalem and rededicated the temple. That's what we celebrate during Hanukkah.
Wow, so this prophecy in Daniel is directly connected to a holiday that people still celebrate today.
That's amazing. It really is. It's a reminder that even when it seems like all hope is lost, faith and courage can win the day.
So we've got these kings battling it out, this horrible persecutor, and then a heroic rebellion. Does it ever get any better for Daniel's people in this prophecy?
Well, the prophecy shifts gears a bit in the last few verses of chapter 11. It talks about a future king who will do whatever he wants, put himself above every god, and even speak blasphemies against the God of gods.
Wait, another tyrant after Antiochus?
It's not totally clear if this is a different person or just like a continuation of the same evil line of rulers. But either way, this prophecy seems to point beyond the immediate historical context of Antiochus. It's looking ahead to the future.
Prophecyception. A prophecy within a prophecy.
Yeah, you could say that. It's a glimpse into this final clash between good and evil, a time of judgment, and the ultimate establishment of God's eternal kingdom.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious apocalyptic territory. Does Daniel give any more specifics about this final showdown?
Oh, yeah, he does. Chapter 12 picks up right where chapter 11 left off. It describes a time of tribulation like nothing the world has ever seen before.
This sounds terrifying. What kind of tribulation are we talking about here?
Think war, famine, natural disasters, persecution on a massive scale. It's a pretty bleak picture.
I definitely need a little bit of hope right now. What's the good news?
Well, Daniel is told that at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book.
So it's like a divine list. Only the people whose names are on it will be saved.
It's a powerful image of God's protection and deliverance for those who remain faithful to him. And it gets even more mind-blowing. Daniel 12:2 says, "And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and some to shame and everlasting contempt."
Wait a minute, is this talking about resurrection?
It is. This is one of the clearest references to resurrection in the entire Old Testament. It's a promise that even death itself will not have the final say.
Wow, this is going way beyond the history of Daniel's time. We're talking about ultimate hope and the promise of a future glory.
Exactly. And the book ends with some encouragement for Daniel, and for all of us, really. It says that those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who turn many to righteousness will be like the stars forever and ever.
What a journey. We've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into the book of Daniel.
Yeah.
We've talked about exiles, visions of empires rising and falling, and the ultimate victory of good over evil. It's a book that really makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. It challenges us to look at the bigger picture of history and our own place in it. It's a reminder that even when things seem impossible, faith and perseverance can make all the difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one question you think our listeners should consider?
That's a good one. I think a good question to ponder would be this. How can we, like Daniel, live with integrity and courage, even when we're surrounded by a culture that doesn't share our values? How can we be a light in the darkness and point others towards hope and truth? Something to think about.